So I'm just going to clip this in before I actually start talking about everything and going on with everything. There is a Dropbox link to all of the screenshots down below in the description. Please, 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 from the bottom of my little black soul and heart, I beg you guys to spread this video and the Dropbox link like wildfire. I want it to spread. I want every person who is into kink in LA and South Florida, who's into a dubstep in LA and South Florida. I want everybody to know who these people are. Everybody needs to know, because now they're out in LA working with Nikitsky Noir, who knows exactly how these people are and supports them still. She's the reason why they're blowing up in LA, because people think that they can trust her. She's not trustworthy either. None of these people are trustworthy. And now they're working with people like Virtual Riot and Hi, I'm Ghost. And Ghost Data. Ghost Data blocks me. Ghost Data supports Nazis and racists and manipulators and abusers. But I don't know if any of these other three DJs, I'm blanking on the name, on the other name, it's Tokyo something. I don't know if they know who they're getting involved with. So please, please, please spread these links like wildfire. These people absolutely need to be stopped. Okay, so this video is going to be all over the place. I apologize now for that. Having to relive this and talk about it again when I haven't even dealt with it in my EMDR therapy is just going to be really difficult. So my anxiety is spiked right now, and my brain is kind of just scattered from everything going on. So I do have talking points if you see me looking down to try and keep me on track. Basically, today I'm going to be discussing something really terrible and traumatic that happened to me, and just my personal experiences with a fetish company based in South Florida and LA called Submissions in Florida and Nachturnal in LA. It is ran by Robert Frost and Dolly. Her username on Instagram, I believe, is Tattoo Dolly, like TATTU or something. They both have their name on all of the flyers, and she is the face of Submissions. So with that said, I started working for Robert maybe a year and a half ago. It might be almost be 2 years now. And at first, he just reached out to me on Instagram and asked if I would be a go-go dancer for his fetish parties here in South Florida. And I was excited because that was something that I always wanted to do with my life. And so I said, fuck yeah, of course I will. And so, the first couple months, it was really, really good. And, or the first few months, I would say it was really, really good. There weren't any issues. I had genuinely felt like I belonged, like with a community finally, and had like a nice group of friends and like almost like a family, like a kink family. And kink had been something that I had been into for a long time before I knew about Submissions. I just didn't have the network to know that there was anything like Submissions or a group of people like this in South Florida. So I was really happy. Me and my best friend started going to the parties, and everything was great. And then I met Tommy, who is Dolly's submissive. His username on Instagram is Suslord, SUSLXRD 777. We started dating, and a few months later, or maybe a month later, it was very shortly after that Dolly decided to drop him, like just randomly, just was like, this dynamic has reached its course. We're done. So I had to be the one to pick up the pieces and, take care of him and be there for him. And, I'm so sorry that she did this, whatever. During that time, I felt as though me and Dolly were, I wouldn't say close, but definitely friends. I had kind of felt like she was like a sister that I didn't get to have, and had shared my experiences with my own abusive sister with her. And so, I felt that there was like a decent bond there. And then she did that to Tommy, and it was just kind of like, what? Like, that's not cool. And so they kind of stopped really communicating like that. And so me and her kind of just stopped communicating like that. And so in that time frame, something happened. I don't necessarily remember what happened, but in that time frame, basically I had confronted Dolly about something that she did that I didn't necessarily like. And I tried to do it very calmly. And she got very upset and popped off on me. And Tommy got very upset at me for saying something to her, even though I was trying to push a boundary, which I had every right to do. And so she just she felt some type of way towards me after that. And so then I still didn't feel alienated at all. I still did feel a part of it, because at the time, since her and Tommy were not talking either, it was a lot easier for us to just kind of stay away. And so, everything was still fine. And then Optique came into the picture, a girl named Optique. And she had worked for Submissions before, and then not for Submissions, and then for the enemy, and then for Submissions. And so she kind of came in, and I'm not going to go into massive detail, but she came in and flipped everything absolutely upside down. Dolly had turned on me because of the things that Optique was telling her. It got to the point where Optique tried to ruin me and Tommy's relationship, and to the point where at one of the parties, she verbally attacked me in the bathroom, and we had a scream match. And at the time, me and Dolly were still not, on good terms. And so after that happened, I was outside crying, of course, because I was upset because I had just gotten attacked. And Rob asked me, what do you want me to do? And in that moment, I just felt so vindicated and like seen. And it was like a moment of like, oh my God, like somebody actually cares about me. And like, and so I said, I don't think that she's a dangerous person. Like, she just verbally attacked me in the bathroom. And I said, she needs to be fired. Like, she needs to go. I'm sorry. And so he said, well, I can't do that, and walked away from me. And so I got it together and was like, well, okay, I'm just going to go keep trying to enjoy my time. At this time, Tommy, my boyfriend, was nowhere to be found. He was nowhere to be found around me. He was with Dolly. And so I went back in, and he asked me what happened, and I told him. And so I had decided in that moment to go up to Dolly and apologize to her. I don't necessarily feel I owed her an apology, but after what had happened with Optique, I just really did not want any more drama, and did not want any more bad blood between me and any of the other girls that worked there, because Optique was enough. And Dolly started screaming at me and popping off in front of everybody, all of my coworkers and all of my friends, and Robert, who was my boss. And I got upset and walked out, and Tommy stayed behind, left me outside to cry. I was pretty upset about it. Then he came out and proceeded to tell me that Dolly was right and I was wrong. Which was hurtful, because that's supposed to be my man, right? So why don't you have my back? But, he's madly in love with her. So it completely makes sense why she always came before literally anybody else in his life. Literally. So that's understandable. So whatever, the rest of the night went on, and, the things between me and Optique just, kept getting worse. And so eventually, Dolly and Rob called a meeting, and we all came into the meeting at a diner. It was me, Optique, Unique, Tommy, Dolly, and Robert. And Dolly proceeded to start talking about how we need to let this go and how, it shouldn't be this big of a deal. And so at the time, none of them had known the level that Optique had taken her fuckery, I guess, to. She destroyed an $800 job for me for the rest of my life. This client will not reach out to me anymore because of what this girl did. Again, I'm not going to go into detail because this isn't about her. It is about submissions as a whole and the type of people that they support and attract and love. So that I got upset and walked away from the table and went into the bathroom, and Dolly proceeded to follow me, and I pretty much just kind of filled her in on a lot of the stuff that had been happening that she didn't know about. And she had admitted to me in that moment, in that bathroom, that the reason why she was treating me the way she was treating me was because Optique had gotten into her head about me, and she believed what was being said about me. So that is why Dolly was treating me like I was below her for however many months that was going on. So then I'm going to move on to my next, Tommy is going to come up a lot in this. He has a huge hand in it. He's abusive and racist as well, and very manipulative. So I definitely will be discussing him as part of the submissions as a whole. I'm not going to do that right now. So, yeah. Okay. For the next talking point, some of these people I'm not going to name, and some of them I will, kind of, brush, like a nickname, but it's not their name. But if you know who I'm talking about, then you know who I'm talking about. But we ended up getting a couple other workers who had majorly disrespected me. One who knew about my sexual trauma, knew about my boundaries, decided to call me on a Valentine's Day while I was with Tommy, and proceeded to moan and groan over the phone as though he was, and was telling me what he wanted me to do to Tommy and what he wanted Tommy to do to me, and it was very, very uncomfortable for me. This is somebody that I thought was a very close friend of mine. He knew about all of my, sexual trauma and my boundaries, so I was very taken aback by it. He has since apologized, and I am on civil terms with him. So that is why I'm not naming him. But that was a very not fun experience. And then having to see him at the parties over and over. There was also another girl. I'm not going to necessarily name her because I don't think she made a big dent the way that Optique did. This person had gotten a promotion and was not necessarily our manager, but was making the scheduling for our dancing and when we're going up, etc. And so there was a day where this was after I had been physically assaulted, which was also Tommy, because of Tommy. I couldn't dance very much because my back was messed up. And I had messaged this girl that day before the party that night and just said, hey, I can't dance all of my sessions, or I'm blanking on the word. I can't dance I can't dance in all of my sets. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it together. But me and Tommy can do scenes for the sets that I can't dance in. And she proceeded to be just very nasty to me, telling me that I'm jealous of her because she's the manager, and just a lot of really unnecessary stuff. And I did go, I think I went to Rob about it. I might have gone to Dolly, but I don't remember. So don't take that too seriously. But I went to one of them and let them know what was going on. And I mean, they were disgusted, but they weren't really going to do anything about it. And like, it got to the point where I had found out that this girl went and was talking shit about me to some of our LA girls who dance for Nocturnal, and I was informed of it, and so I had confronted this girl, and she got upset and quit. So that's the only reason why she had no longer had anything to do with submissions, because she quit, not because they let go of her, which they should have, because that's not how a manager should be speaking to other employees. But that's kind of when I started realizing that Dolly and Rob don't care about me, and that's when the racist comments kept getting like worse and worse and worse with them. Rob would basically introduce me to people as hood rat, and behind my back he would tell people that I was one of his slave girls. Instead of one of his dancers, I was known as his slave girl, and I didn't know where that came from. I didn't understand it, but then I remembered that when I first started working for Rob, it was a picture of me and Unique, and some white girl commented under the picture of me and Unique, are these new slaves or something? And at the time I went off on the woman, but I didn't understand what she meant when she said, well, it's an inside joke between me and Rob. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know where it came from. I didn't get it. So I didn't think into it until I was told that he was calling me a slave girl behind my back. And that's when I had put two and two together, and I said, oh. And then I had another dancer tell me that he called me a slave girl to her face, and she had to confront him about it. And so that really sucked. And at the parties, Rob would say a lot of things like, go smoke your weed and eat your fried chicken, go eat your watermelon, go over there and be ghetto or whatever. Like, he would make very racist comments. He would say things like, well, I'm not black, so I'm not a slave, so don't ask me. Go ask someone who's black who's a slave, because black people are slaves, and a lot of other things. A lot of the parties are a little bit of a blur for me because I disassociated. After me and Tommy started dating, I kept dancing for Rob for maybe a few more parties before I just couldn't handle the racism and the treatment. And so I stopped dancing for him. I was still going to the parties just because Tommy wanted to. But I was 100% disassociated most of the time at those parties. And at those parties, I've had a lot of other things happen. I've had people take pictures of me without consent. I have had people grab me without consent. I've had people give me head pats without consent. I had one woman walk in and start hitting me in the head with a crop out of nowhere. And her excuse was, I thought she was one of the ones with no rules. Rob and Dolly did nothing about any of these incidences. There was also a couple who was frequenting our parties called the Satans, who I did not know. They were trying to get into my pants, but failed to mention that they were both HIV positive, and I did not find that out until they had sex with Unique. And yes, he used a condom, so thankfully. But they would come to the parties and have orgies afterwards and not tell anybody that they have it. Whether it is detectable or not, you should be letting people know that you have it. So when Rob found out, when we told him, I thought that he would care, I thought that he would do something about it, ban them, but he continued to let them come to the parties over and over and over and over and over and over until eventually he got sick of them and banned them. But it was the same with Optique. Eventually, he did fire Optique because he said that Optique was annoying him and he didn't want to deal with it anymore. Annoying him about me because we couldn't be at the same parties because she was instigating everything and messing with me. So he never fired any of these people because of what they did to their dancers. He fired them when he got sick of dealing with them himself. And so I just didn't feel safe. I didn't feel welcomed anymore. I didn't feel like it was a family anymore. I started getting very depressed and a little bit manic because I was put in very high stressful situations whenever I was around these people, just because of the type of people they allowed to come to the parties and what they allowed to happen at these parties. I think I'm trying to piece it together in my head what else I'm going to talk about. I know this is all over the place. I'm just doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can right now. I have such anxiety, but I have, my pen to try and keep me not so stressed, and I'm trying to talk as calmly as possible because I don't want to get too passionate and then have people get distracted by my passion instead of hearing what I'm saying. So yeah. I think my next talking point that I want to talk about is the I guess the Wakanda thing, the Black Panther thing. I didn't realize he had dressed up as Black Panther in the past, and that's not okay. He's not a black man to do that. And after a while, anytime he would call me or call Tommy, he would call me Black Panther. Where's Black Panther? Black Panther, Black Panther, because I'm black. And I didn't like it. I had asked Rob multiple of times to calm down with the racism, and it would maybe subside for a couple weeks, and then that's it. It would just be right back to him being his little racist happy self. And at the time I was going through my mom dying, and then I was going through her getting a kidney transplant, and so I just became very drained and very depressed. And the way that they kept me, Tommy, Dolly, and Rob, they kept me in this manipulative state of nobody likes you, you have too many problems, we are the only people that are going to put up with you that like you, so we are the only people that you should really talk to. And it really, I haven't had good friends my whole life, and so I thought back to my other friendships and how people have told me that in the past, and I haven't believed it, but because I had been with these people for so long, I believed it. I believed them. I believed that nobody liked me, and so that's why at the parties I went from being this very talkative, social butterfly who was just running around with a smile on her face every time to somebody who has to be under the influence to even stomach going to those parties, following Tommy around like a little dog because they would tell me that nobody really liked me and I wasn't welcoming and just a bunch of other stuff. And Tommy is, unfortunately, he also has a lot of racism in him. His family's very racist, and racism is taught, and so I didn't realize how racist he was until the very end of our relationship. But anytime I would ever try and talk to Tommy about black people issues or anything that had to do with black people, he never wanted to hear it. He'd always make me feel bad for talking about it, or, well, what about the other minorities and LGBTQ, what about them? And whenever I would try and bring up to him that I don't like how Rob talks to me and that I don't like the racism that comes out of his mouth, Tommy would just tell me, get over it. That's how he is. That's who he is, And he then told me one day that he wanted a sub who would pretty much do, like, cater to his every wish and command. Basically a servant, a slave. And I told him that I'm not a slave and I'm not a servant sub. That's not who I am. And that's not who I'm ever going to be. And in that moment, I just, it made me very curious to know if maybe has some racism in him. And then at the very end, when things were okay for a second, he told me that he didn't like afros. He didn't find them attractive at all. And when he said that, that's kind of when I put two and two together and was just like, why is he with me then? And now, a few days ago, I was talking to somebody who had said that he's made a couple comments in the past that are a little bit racist towards black people. And, you know, I would notice that at the parties, we would do impact play. He would do impact play on me, and I would never get aftercare. And so it kind of like made me, it made me think, what if he was just using me the whole time that we were together? What if he got off on the fact that he had control over a black girl, you know? And this is a really recent realization, and I could be wrong, but when your girlfriend, your black girlfriend, tells you that she doesn't like being called a slave girl or a hood rat, and you tell her to get over it, or you shut her down every time she brings up black people problem, or you call her a liar when she talks about black people problems, and you say things like, you don't like afros, they're not attractive, it really makes people question things, you know? So then you think, well, he's in love with Dolly and would move the earth to make her happy, and he looks up to Robert Frost, who's a fucking Nazi, and of course he's racist. Of course he's abusive. Of course he's manipulative. Because who looks up to people like this? Who? If you're not exactly them. And I was just so manipulated by these people into thinking that they cared about me. And then when I realized that they didn't, I felt stuck. I didn't know what to do, where to go, how to feel. I just felt trapped. And now that I'm away from them, it's just a lot of realizations, and it's a lot of trauma, and it's a lot of PTSD, and it's really difficult. So that's who Tommy is. That's who Rob and Dolly are. The next talking points, I want to talk about him sending me money, Rob sending me money. He would send me money. There would always be some dumb title, your reparations. Here's an extra $4 for you to rent Wakanda, Black Panther. Like, just like comments like that whenever he would send me money. I never saw the titles until I looked at the actual emails. And that's when I was just like, what the fuck? And the reparations one, I didn't realize, I didn't look at that email. He sent me, he said, did you see what I put on the title? And I was like, no. And he was like, your reparations. And I just didn't know how to respond. So I was just like, okay. But I didn't realize I could just go and screenshot this. And I was really manipulated by these people. I didn't think I deserved anything better than that type of treatment. I just want to like clarify this because I know there's going to be people wondering, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? I should have. But when you're trauma bonded and you're so broken and being manipulated by master manipulators, it's really hard to get the fuck out. And I'm so glad I got the fuck out. Rob has also claimed that he's lent people money, including me, and that's 100% not true. He sent me $100 and something for my dragon staff. It was a gift from him to me. I don't borrow money from people because I know that I can't pay them back. So for him to say that he lent me money, that's, just so far off of what the truth is. I also wanted to talk about another situation that just popped into my head. Before I went to Lost Lands last year, I was in the group chat, the submissions group chat, and I was talking to one of the guys in there. I don't remember his name because he's extremely irrelevant. But he was basically kind of like making a comment that Rob was making a lot of money. And I was under the impression that Rob was broke as fuck. That's what he was telling everybody. So to hear his homie, the one that's running everything with him, to hear, oh no, Rob has money, it was kind of like, so why does he only pay us $100 if he has all this money? Why are we getting paid much less than what we deserve for everything we do for him? So I made a comment and I said, last I checked, Rob was broke as fuck. And after that comment was made, the conversation ended, whatever. And then I went to Lost Lands. And at Lost Lands, I'm trying to enjoy myself. It's the end of the night. I'm on shrooms. And I get a text or a call from Tommy bitching at me. Because Rob and Dolly are mad at me because I said that Rob was broke. And I proceeded to argue with Tommy for the next maybe hour, 2 hours when we got back to the campsite, because why call me when I'm at my favorite place on earth? The one thing in my life that I look forward to every year. Anybody that knows me knows what Lost Lands is, knows what Lost Lands means to me, including Rob and Dolly and Tommy. But they decided to destroy an amazing night because I made a comment. So then it was, well, because you made this comment, Rob doesn't want you to go to Key West because we would go to Fantasy Fest. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is so stupid. So I was like, I'll deal with it when I get back. So I get back. I'm trying to get in touch with Rob. He's ignoring me. He's acting some type of way. But then he's going and talking shit to everybody about me. And I'm just like, well, dude, why don't you actually call me and talk to me? So eventually, after days and days and days, he decides to man up and call me. And I explain everything to him, the entire conversation and how that got even said, and that it was taken completely out of context. Now, I don't even think that he saw. Dolly, I think, is the one who saw it and told him and probably took it out of context, because when I explained to him the whole situation, he was no longer mad and I was back to going to Key West with them. But he had called Unique and talked shit about me and called other people to talk shit about me while I was sitting there trying to get in touch with him so that we could communicate like grown adults and figure this out together. And so then I'm going to talk about Key West. I went to Key West with them twice for Fantasy Fest the first year I worked for them, and then Fantasy Fest last year. The first year at Fantasy Fest was a nightmare. He told us that we had this really pretty room to look forward to. His boy owned the hotel, so we get there 10 o'clock at night. It's me, Unique, Levi, and one of our other homeboys who works for them as well. All of us are black. So we go to the room that we're told to go to, and we try and get in, and the door's locked. these 4 white men, big hillbilly white men, come out and, the fuck are you doing? And we're just like, oh, this was supposed to be our room. And they're like, no, it's not. We fucking paid for it. So I'm texting Rob, like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Like, these white men are, like, pissed off. We're 4 black people. Like, this is not a good look right now. It looks like we just tried to break into these people's fucking, like, hotel room. So we walk away. We're like, I'm really sorry. We didn't mean to, like, bother you. They start, like, following us because they think that we're, like, thugs, whatever. And so I'm just, like, on and off the phone with Rob, like, what are we supposed to do right now? So he gets in touch with the owner. The owner comes and meets us, tells us, oh, well, basically, you know, my front desk person gave the room to them because they had money and they needed somewhere to stay, and, like, we weren't sure if you guys were coming, but I have another room for you. Puts us in the most crack house ass room. He's like, this is where my friends stay. Dirt, hair, like, gross, like, literally looks like a crack house. Like a house where people just come in to buy drugs and leave. And I'm like, we're just, like, in just total shock and awe of, like, what? So I'm, like, texting Rob, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know what to do, like, I don't have any other place, da-da-da, like, you're just gonna have to, like, tough it out, like, my bad, whatever. And I'm gonna just say this. That hotel room we stayed in, that crack house of a hotel room we stayed in, was an hour away from the party. I was only getting paid for the dancing at the party. That gas came out of my pocket. My outfits for submissions, Robert only ever paid for one. Every other outfit is my money, and he only pays us $100 to $120 now dollars to dance. And it's not always that. It's usually just 100. But he wants us to promo every single day, post it to our actual Instagram pages. He wants us to be out there putting out flyers and promoting, but you're only paying us $100 to do, and we're dancing anywhere between 6 to 8 sets. That doesn't include, like, scenes. So yeah, that wasn't enough money, but I still drove that hour for the next 3 days. The hour to the parties and the hour back to that crack house. Never asked him for extra money. After I complained about it, that was it. Didn't say anything else about it. Then, let's bring it into this next Key West. Okay, he puts me and Tommy in the big suite. Cool. Great. I deserve that. I get into, unfortunately, a physical altercation with a man who put his hands on me. I'm on the floor rolling around, like, fighting this guy. Rob and Tommy come out. We break apart, and we walk away, and they start yelling at me. And so I leave. I walk to my car by myself, away from them. And then I get a call from Tommy, and I hear Rob in the background saying, oh, she's so unstable. She's always fighting everybody. Nobody really likes her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh no, tell me how you actually really feel. And so it was a whole thing. Later on, I went up to Rob and I looked him in his eye and I said, you know, you have a lot of shit to talk behind my back, but just so you know, like, this is what that man did. This is what he said. This is what happened. And when I told Rob, he was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that that's what he did. Like, I just assumed. Yeah, you assumed, because you just assumed that all black people are just animals, right? That must be what you assume, because we're your slaves, right? Right. So I was going to let this go. I wasn't going to bring it up. I was trying to go about my life and heal. And when I got home from my birthday trip a week ago, I started getting text messages from random numbers. Well, turns out those random numbers were Dolly and Tommy harassing me. So because of that, I've decided that I'm no longer going to let them mess with my peace, and I'm no longer going to be silent, and they want to silence me. I have had to put my Instagram on private because when all of this first blew up, I caught Rob telling everybody in the group chat of submissions to go mass report me. So I had to go private, and I've had to stay private because any account I make, they have found, mass reported, and taken down. So, sorry. So I'm tired of being silenced by these people. I'm tired of them thinking that this is okay, that they can treat people like this, that they don't have any consequences. You don't get to be racist and manipulative and abusive and dangerous. You don't get to do that to Black people. I'm just, again, all over the place, but I'm just remembering things. When Rob first started Nocturnal in LA, I had a few of the dancers messaging me about his mouth and how he called a transgendered person I don't like this word, a tranny. And how he made a Mexican racist comment to one of my friend's friends who wasn't even Mexican. So I decided that me and Tommy were out at a kava bar, hanging out, and Rob came to drop off flyers. And so I just, really calmly had a little conversation with him and just said, hey, you really have to watch, the things that you're saying in LA. Some people are coming to me and telling me that it's making them a little bit uncomfortable. And, just don't, just, you know what I mean? And, I thought everything was good. And then the next day, Dolly calls Tommy and she's like, is JoJo there? Let me talk to her. And Dolly starts screaming at me, okay? Telling me, how dare you say anything to Rob about his racism? That's how Rob is. You just need to get over it. How could you? You know who he is. Blah, blah, blah. You don't have a right to be upset with him. And I was just jaw dropped that this is coming out of somebody like Dolly's mouth. And that's when I realized who she really was. That's when I realized she's just as racist as he is. She's just like him. And now they're dating. Isn't that a shocker? Not really. But, there's that. And then, I lost my train of thought because all of this is just a lot right now. And back when all of this first, blew out and I saw the screenshots I saw the group chat of Rob telling everybody to mass report me, I had then started posting screenshots letting people know what was going on, and they had people stalking me, and so Rob tried to reach out to me. He tried to call me, and I answered and hung up when I realized it was him, and then he tried to text me saying that we needed to talk. After I ignored him, or I might have sent him I think I sent him the text message that I have in the Dropbox, but I don't necessarily remember. After that failed, the next day Dolly called me to further scream at me and tell me how dare I try and take them down after they've had my back, when and where. And then when that didn't work, the next day they had my ex Tommy call me to try and further silence me when Rob and Dolly didn't work. So, as of right now, they want me silent. I'm doing damage. I will continue to do damage. I will no longer stay silent as your victim. I will not do it. And I will not sit here and allow you all to go do this to other people without at least giving them a warning, without having something here that they can go and look at to see who you people really fucking are. You all should be ashamed of yourselves, and I know that you're watching this, but you should be ashamed of yourselves. You're upset because other black people are getting sick of your racism and calling you out on it and spreading the word about it. And you all think that that's because of me. It's not because of me. I stayed quiet. Y'all silenced me. It's because other black people are realizing that y'all are fucking racist and we're not gonna put up with it anymore. It had nothing to do with me, Dolly, of why you think that that person is telling people you're racist. It had nothing to do with me, but you thought it did. So Dolly and Tommy decided to harass me. And that's not okay. You don't get to take my peace. You don't get to keep being toxic and evil to people who do not deserve it. Dolly and Rob and Tommy are not real kinksters. They're not really kinksters. Tommy never once gave me aftercare, probably because he wanted to just beat me and be able to get away with it. But he never gave me aftercare. He knows nothing about being a dominant. I dommed him from below, as everybody told me. Dolly told my best friend that she's not a dom. Literally, to his face, I'm not a dom. And Rob has also admitted that he has nothing to really do with fetish. He just uses it as a platform to make his money. None of these people are real fetish people. They're not real kinksters. Real kinksters would have rules all over the walls. No photography, no touching without consent. Real kinksters would never allow people so dangerous to attend their parties. Real kinksters would never be racist and treat people the way that you all have treated me. I'm a real kinkster. I know the ins and the outs and I know the rules. So, with that being said, I hope I got everything out. If I missed anything, fuck. I hope that I've given you all enough information to know who these people are and the type of people they attract and hang out with and surround themselves with. So, I think that's everything that I wanted to say. Hopefully this video makes a difference in somebody's life or makes a difference at all. Again, hopefully we spread this shit like wildfire, and please, please, please make sure you all look at these screenshots, because these screenshots will 100% back up my entire story. I honestly didn't even need to make this video with the screenshots that I have, but I'm making it because I think that it's important. I think it's important to speak up. And if this means that I lose all of my social medias, if this means that they hire somebody or they pull up to my house to jump me or kill me or whatever, so be it. So be it. If me coming out about my experience saves at least one person, that's all I care about. That's all I care about. So just help spread this like a disease, like a virus, like how COVID spread this shit like COVID. Please.